The disabled alien princess entered the wrong room. Only the human asked her to stay. The Velari Union had sent her as a representative to the peace talks, and every step felt heavy. Her legs were weak from the accident long ago, and she had learned to rely on machines to move. The station was enormous, filled with lights and sounds that made her head spin sometimes. Her guards were supposed to stay near her, but the crowd was so large that they got pulled in different directions. One of them had told her, "We will be right behind you, princess." But the moment she turned a corner, they vanished. Lyra had been taught to be careful, to keep her dignity, and to always follow the path marked for her. But the station's corridors were confusing. Signs glowed in strange colors, and the language of the other species was sometimes hard to read. She tried to keep calm, counting her steps as she went. Her hands shook a little on the handles. The soft hum of the station's engines ran under her feet. She could feel it in the metal plates beneath her frame. It was a strange, restless feeling, but it reminded her she was alive. She thought she was heading toward the main hall, where the other leaders were waiting. Lyra had practiced what she would say, how she would move her hands gracefully, how she would speak clearly. She had learned to smile even when her body reminded her of the accident, even when the weakness in her legs made her afraid she might fall. She had been trained to appear perfect because in her world weakness was not accepted. As she turned a corner, a door caught her attention. It was slightly open, and through the gap she could see a room that seemed quiet. She frowned. The hall should have been full of people. Maybe this was a shortcut. Maybe the guards had been right, and she could get there faster this way. She pushed her frame carefully inside, not noticing the sign that said maintenance. The room smelled different, a mix of oil and metal, not the perfume and air circulation of the main hall. Inside, a human was working. His name was Alex Turner. He was tall, with dark hair that fell into his eyes, and his uniform was marked with patches of grease. He looked up quickly as Lyra entered, and for a moment his hands froze on the tools. Most humans would have shouted. Most would have panicked at the sight of an alien in their space, especially a Velari princess. But Alex did not. He blinked and then smiled faintly. "Hello," he said. "Do you need some help?" His voice was calm, steady, like a quiet river flowing. Lyra froze, unsure what to do. She had been trained to move with authority, to demand obedience, to appear unshakable. She was supposed to look confident, even if her legs trembled. But Alex did not bow, did not kneel, did not stare at her frame. He just looked at her face. There was something in his eyes that made her relax. Something in his calm made the panic in her chest ease a little. She realized she had been holding her breath. I think I am lost," she said softly, her words trembling. She did not want to show weakness. She had spent years learning not to, but the truth was clear in her mind. She was alone, and the corridor signs had confused her. The words were similar, but the directions were wrong. Alex stepped closer, not rushing, not making her nervous. "That happens," he said. "I get lost here too sometimes." He gestured toward a chair that had been pushed to the side. "You can sit if you want, take your time." Lyra hesitated. She had never been offered help like this. In her palace, people would have either bowed too quickly, unsure of what to do, or stared in curiosity, whispering about her injury. Here, he treated her simply as a person. Something warmed inside her chest. She nodded slightly and moved toward the chair, her frame making soft whirring sounds as it rolled over the metal floor. Alex handed her a small container of water. "It's not fancy," he said, "but it will help." She accepted it, her fingers brushing his briefly. There was no fear, no awe, just a simple human kindness. She drank slowly, noticing that the cool water soothed her throat and her mind. They talked quietly. Alex asked simple things about the station, about her journey, about how different worlds handled everyday tasks. Lyra answered carefully, unsure how much to reveal, but he did not press. He did not demand her title, her story, her secrets. He just listened, nodding, adjusting the lights slightly so they were softer for her sensitive eyes. Time passed. Outside, the guards had discovered her absence. They were banging on the doors, calling her name, worried. They expected panic, scandal, chaos. But inside the small maintenance room, there was none. Lyra felt a strange sense of peace. She realized that for the first time in years, no one had treated her like a problem. She was not a princess in a frame. She was just herself, sitting in a chair, drinking water, talking to someone who simply wanted to help. A loud knock sounded on the door. Alex turned his head, expecting the angry voices of the station security. He looked at Lyra, unsure what she wanted to do. The princess hesitated. She could return to the hall, face the formalities, appear flawless as always. Or she could stay a little longer in this small room with this human who saw her as a person. I will stay, she said softly. The words surprised even her. Alex nodded and smiled. He went back to his tools, not rushing her, not treating her like a spectacle. For the first time, Lyra understood something she had never been taught. Strength did not always come from standing tall or speaking boldly. Sometimes, strength came from choosing to be honest, to be seen as she truly was. She felt a flicker of something new, trust. Something that had been missing all her life. Minutes passed, then hours, though she did not notice. They talked about small things, the hum of the station engines, the smell of oil, how humans sometimes used broken tools to fix bigger problems. Lyra found herself laughing quietly at a story Alex told about a filter that had jammed in a hatchway. She had forgotten how simple laughter could feel. The guards eventually stopped banging. They were waiting outside, unsure what to do. Lyra could hear the whispers of other diplomats as they prepared for the meeting. But she did not move immediately. She sipped water, letting the quiet of the room wrap around her. For the first time, she did not feel the weight of her title pressing down. For the first time, she felt human in a small, strange way. Alex noticed her gaze. "You can go when you're ready," he said, "but you don't have to rush." His tone was steady, respectful. Lyra smiled faintly. She did not want to leave, but she also knew she could not stay forever. "Thank you," she said. Simple words, but heavy with meaning. They held the weight of years of isolation, of being treated differently, of being expected to appear perfect at all times. Alex nodded, understanding without asking questions. When she finally moved toward the door, the guards stepped aside quickly, looking at her with relief and confusion. They expected panic, drama, perhaps complaints. Instead, the princess emerged quietly calm, with a small smile, her frame rolling steadily behind her. She did not shout, she did not demand. She simply walked. Later, as she entered the main hall, her mind kept returning to the maintenance room. To the human who had not stared, who had not demanded, who had simply asked her to stay. Something inside her had shifted. She realized that this brief encounter, a moment that might have seemed small to anyone else, was the first spark of a new understanding. Lyra would face the diplomats, the leaders, the expectations of her people. She would speak and move as required, but a piece of her now belonged to a different world. A world where kindness mattered more than titles, where patience and listening could be stronger than any formal speech. And in that world, a human had shown her a way to be herself, without fear, without shame, without pretending to be perfect. She paused at the threshold of the main hall, taking a deep breath. Her hands gripped the frame firmly, but her heart felt lighter. For the first time in a long time, she was ready to face the world, not as a princess in a cage of expectation, but as a being who had been seen, understood, and accepted. And she knew she would never forget the human who asked her to stay after the meeting in the main hall. Princess Lyra returned to her private quarters, but her mind kept drifting back to the small maintenance room and the human who had asked her to stay. The memory of Alex Turner's calm voice and patient eyes filled her thoughts. She realized that she had never felt such comfort in the presence of anyone before, not her guards, not her teachers, not the other diplomats. There was a quiet strength in him, something that did not demand attention but still gave a sense of safety. The next day, Lyra asked for the station map again, but this time she moved slowly, not to follow the official route but to explore. Her frame made soft whirring noises on the polished floor as she rolled toward the maintenance levels. Signs in alien languages pointed left and right, and she paused often, trying to remember the correct doors. The air smelled different down here, metal, oil, and a faint scent of warm machinery. She knew she was in the right place when she saw a large open room with tools and consoles spread across long tables. Alex was there, leaning over a console with a small panel open, wires spread in front of him. When he noticed her, he straightened up and smiled. "Princess Lyra," he said quietly, "I didn't expect to see you again so soon." He sounded surprised but not annoyed. The calm in his voice made her feel at ease. She noticed how naturally he moved, how he handled the equipment without haste, and how he treated everything and everyone with care. "I wanted to see the station from another side," she said softly. She did not mention the formal meetings, the speeches, or the expectation to always appear perfect. Here she could speak simply as herself. Alex nodded, understanding without pressing. "Follow me," he said, pointing toward a chair near a console. Sit for a while. You don't have to stand or move around if you don't want to. He had remembered the small details from the day before, her legs, her sensitive eyes, her need for rest. Lyra felt a warmth she had never known. No one had cared so gently for her needs without making her feel weak. They talked quietly about the station, about how the air systems worked, about the energy panels and the filters that needed cleaning. Alex explained everything in simple words, not talking down to her, just sharing knowledge. Lyra listened, fascinated. She had never known humans to be so practical, so focused on solving problems calmly. In her palace, everything was about ceremony, words, appearances. Here, things were about action and thought. She realized that humans could be strong in ways that were quiet, not loud or flashy. Sometimes things break and we just fix them, Alex said, tightening a small bolt. We don't complain, we figure it out. It's not perfect, but it works. His words made her smile. There was honesty in them, a simple truth she had rarely heard in politics. It made her think about her own people, about the way leaders hid accidents and weaknesses to appear flawless. Maybe humans had something important to teach even the strongest of leaders. I like that, she said softly. Honesty. She noticed how easy it was to speak without fear here. No one expected her to pretend. Alex nodded. Honesty helps us trust each other, he said. If someone is honest, we know they are reliable. Even if they make mistakes, we can work together. His voice had a calm authority, the kind that did not demand obedience but inspired respect. Lyra thought about the speeches she would give later, the careful words she would have to craft. Maybe she could be honest too, in her own way. Over the next hours, Lyra learned small human habits. She noticed how Alex organized tools carefully, how he always cleaned his hands before touching sensitive panels, how he looked out for small dangers without making a fuss. She realized humans survived harsh conditions not by hiding weaknesses, but by solving problems together, calmly, step by step. There was a quiet courage in their everyday actions, a strength that was not celebrated but steady and reliable. Other humans appeared as well. Claire Morgan, a medical aide, brought a small kit and offered to adjust the frame so it would be easier for her to move. She did not ask for titles or bow low. She simply listened to Lyra's needs and worked. Noah Brooks, a systems planner, helped repair a minor leak in a ventilation tube without making her feel she was watching a display. They treated her as someone who belonged here, not as a delicate object or a symbol. Lyra felt something new, belonging. It was a small, simple feeling, but it filled a part of her heart that she had not known could exist. One afternoon, while Alex worked on a panel, Lyra asked him a question that had been on her mind. Why do humans help each other so quietly? No one seems to want power or praise, she was curious. In her world, everyone seemed to chase attention or status. Humans seemed different. Alex paused, thinking. We help because we have to, he said. We depend on each other. No one survives alone. Power is not about showing off. It's about making sure everyone is okay. If we can fix a problem, we fix it. That's enough. His eyes met hers, steady and calm. She realized that what he said was not just about maintenance work. It was about life. She thought about her own people, about the endless rules and ceremonies. Maybe her strength did not have to be the kind everyone expected. Maybe she could be strong quietly, like these humans, by seeing things clearly and acting carefully, patiently, and honestly. She felt a quiet determination rise inside her. As the day went on, Lyra and Alex talked about personal things too. Alex told her about his childhood on a mining station, about his love for machines, about the small mistakes that taught him lessons. Lyra shared cautiously a few details about her own childhood, her love for observing the stars, the accident that changed her legs. She did not hide everything, but she did not reveal her political secrets. Alex listened without judgment, nodding, asking gentle questions. She realized how rare it was to find someone who listened without needing to control the conversation or her. The more time she spent with humans in the maintenance room, the more she noticed their quiet ways of helping each other. Claire would notice if someone looked tired and offer a chair. Noah would adjust tools for someone struggling without announcing it. Alex would calm tense situations by speaking softly and observing carefully. There was no need to compete, no need to appear flawless. Things were done, problems were solved, and people survived. Lyra had never known this kind of strength. It was patient, steady, and deeply human. One evening, when the station lights dimmed for the rest cycle, Lyra moved slowly to the corner of the room, resting her frame near a console. Alex was finishing a minor repair. The quiet hum of the engines surrounded them. Lyra felt a strange comfort, almost like being home, even though she was far from Velari worlds. She realized she was not afraid here. She realized she could be herself without being judged or pitied. "You make me feel safe," she said quietly. Alex looked up, surprised. He had never been told this by a princess or anyone in a high position. "Safe?" he asked gently. She nodded. "Yes, I am usually watched, judged, or treated like a problem, but with you I am just Lyra." Alex smiled, a small, understanding smile. "That's all I ever wanted," he said. "People should be themselves. We all have limits, we all make mistakes. That doesn't mean we are weak." Lyra felt a warmth rise in her chest. These words, so simple, were stronger than any speech she had given or heard in the halls of politics. They stayed in the maintenance room until the announcements for the next day's meetings came. Lyra finally moved toward the exit, rolling slowly, but her heart felt lighter. She had discovered something important. Strength was not just about appearing perfect or powerful. It was about honesty, patience, and simple acts of care. "I will come again," she said softly to Alex before leaving. He nodded, returning to his tools, but his eyes held a quiet promise. She was welcome anytime. Lyra realized that she had found something rare, a human who saw her, not her disability, not her title, not her history, just her. As she returned to her quarters that night, Lyra could not stop thinking about the small lessons she had learned. Quiet courage, honest help, simple kindness. These humans had taught her something her own people never could. And she knew that when the peace talks began again, she would carry these lessons with her. She would speak, act, and lead with a new kind of strength, one that came not from rules, appearances, or ceremonies, but from simple human truths she had discovered in a small, quiet room. And deep inside, Lyra understood that her life, her journey, and her future had changed in ways no speech or meeting could accomplish. One human had seen her, accepted her, and taught her the first secret of true strength: being oneself, without fear, without pretense, and with trust in others. Princess Lyra had begun to visit the maintenance levels more often. Each day she rolled slowly through the corridors, guided by her frame and her growing memory of the station's layout. Every time she saw Alex Turner, a small sense of relief and curiosity greeted her. He had become a calm presence in her life, someone who treated her like a person, not like a problem to be managed or a symbol to be displayed. She had come to look forward to these quiet hours away from her guards, away from the formalities, away from the constant pressure to be flawless. One morning, as she moved toward the maintenance room, she noticed that small changes had been made. Ramps appeared in areas she had struggled before, chairs had been adjusted for easier access, and certain consoles were arranged at a height that she could reach comfortably. She realized that the humans had noticed her needs without her asking. There had been no announcement, no ceremony, no praise. The station had simply adapted itself quietly to help her. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest, a mix of gratitude and admiration. She had never seen such thoughtful care. In her palace, changes always came with speeches, titles, and expectations. Here it was simple: problem noticed, solution made. Alex noticed her pause and smile. "You like the changes?" he asked, wiping his hands on a rag. She nodded. "Yes, it feels easier." "Thank you," he shook his head slightly. "Don't thank us, we just fix what needs fixing. It's nothing special." Lyra frowned. She did not understand why something so important to her could be considered nothing special. But she also realized that in this quiet, practical way, humans had a strength that did not require recognition. They acted because it mattered, not because someone watched or praised them. Claire Morgan, the medical aide, entered the room with a small kit. She approached Lyra and checked her frame carefully. "We adjusted the supports," Claire said. "It should be easier to move now." She worked quickly and efficiently, not making a show of her care. Lyra watched, fascinated by the calm competence of humans. They seemed to understand needs without drama, without judgment. She had spent so many years being observed, measured, and evaluated. Here, she felt understood simply by being herself. Noah Brooks, a systems planner, appeared next, carrying a small toolkit. He had noticed a minor leak in a pipe near Lyra's usual path. Quietly, he repaired it while speaking to her about simple maintenance procedures. Lyra listened, absorbing each word. She had never known anyone to explain things patiently without rushing or assuming she could not understand. It felt freeing. She could ask questions, make mistakes, and still be respected. Over the days, Lyra began to notice patterns in human behavior. They worked together calmly, helping each other without seeking glory. When one person struggled, another quietly assisted. When a task seemed difficult, they broke it down into smaller steps and solved it patiently. Lyra realized that human strength was not loud or flashy. It was steady, quiet, and dependable. It was a courage born from persistence, from trust, and from shared responsibility. She had never seen this in her own world, where power often came from appearances, loud words, and strict control. One afternoon, Lyra and Alex were adjusting a power panel together. She had learned how to tighten the bolts and check the circuits. She felt competent, useful, not just a fragile princess to be protected. Alex watched her work, nodding occasionally. "You're learning fast," he said, a hint of pride in his voice. She smiled. "I want to understand, I want to help." The words felt true, not rehearsed. She realized that helping, even in a small way, made her feel stronger than any speech she had ever given. As they worked, Lyra noticed how humans handled mistakes. A bolt would sometimes slip, or a panel would not fit correctly. Instead of panicking or blaming each other, they simply stopped, assessed the problem, and tried again. Patience, she realized, was a form of power. Mistakes did not make them weak. Mistakes were part of learning, part of progress. Lyra had spent so many years hiding her weaknesses, fearing judgment, fearing failure. Here, mistakes were natural, even respected. It was a revelation. One evening, as the station lights dimmed, Lyra sat quietly on a chair near a console. Alex was finishing repairs on a nearby machine. The hum of the engines and the soft glow of lights created a calm atmosphere. Lyra spoke softly, almost to herself. "I think I understand now. Strength is not just about appearances. It is about patience, honesty, and care." Alex looked up, his expression calm and attentive. "Exactly," he said. "Being strong doesn't mean you never struggle. It means you keep going, you help others, and you are honest about what you can and cannot do." Lyra considered his words carefully. She realized that this quiet strength, this dependable courage, was something her own people lacked. Her palace had power, yes, but it was fragile, built on fear, appearances, and rules. Here, strength was simple, real, and lasting. It did not need ceremonies. It did not need attention. It was quiet, steady, and profoundly human. As days passed, Lyra's visits became more frequent. She began to look forward to the small rituals, sitting quietly, adjusting panels, asking questions, listening to stories. She felt connected not just to Alex, but to the human way of living. She noticed small acts of kindness, Claire adjusting a seat for a tired technician, Noah offering a hand to someone struggling, Alex explaining things patiently. No one sought recognition. No one demanded praise. The work itself, the care itself, was enough. Lyra began to adopt some of these habits. She spoke more honestly, asked questions when she did not understand, and accepted help without embarrassment. She realized that being honest about her needs did not make her weak. It made her stronger. She could participate fully, contribute, and still be herself. The fear she had carried for years began to fade. She felt alive in a new way, connected to life, to others, to human understanding. One afternoon, Lyra and Alex were alone in the room, adjusting a complex control panel. She struggled with a lever and it slipped from her hands. Normally, she would have been embarrassed, tried to hide it, or scolded herself. Instead, Alex simply smiled and said, "It's okay, try again." She laughed quietly, feeling the tension leave her body. She tried again, successfully this time. The small victory filled her with a sense of accomplishment she had never known in formal speeches or ceremonies. Lyra realized that humans valued persistence and effort over perfection. The fear of failure, which had controlled her for years, seemed less important here. She could try, fail, learn, and succeed without judgment. This realization changed her view of herself. She felt capable, valued, and respected. These feelings were new, and she cherished them. She understood that the quiet actions of humans, helping, listening, repairing, teaching, were forms of leadership and strength that her own world rarely acknowledged. As the evening approached, Lyra and Alex cleaned their tools and prepared to leave the maintenance room. She paused at the door, looking back at the small space that had become a place of learning and understanding. She realized that the lessons here were more important than any political speech she could deliver. She had learned about trust, patience, honesty, and quiet courage. She had learned that strength could be simple, humble, and profoundly effective. "Thank you for teaching me," she said softly to Alex. He looked at her, his expression calm, almost tender. "You are welcome," he said, "but you are the one learning. I just show the way." She nodded, understanding that the lessons were hers to take, to apply, and to grow from. She felt a deep sense of gratitude, not just for his guidance, but for the human way of living that had opened her eyes. As Lyra returned to her quarters, she reflected on everything she had learned. The quiet courage of humans, their steady, patient strength, their willingness to help without seeking praise, these things were changing her. She realized that when she faced her people and the other leaders, she would carry this understanding with her. She would speak honestly, act with patience, and lead with quiet strength. She had discovered a new kind of power, one that came not from appearances or ceremonies, but from understanding, caring, and acting with purpose. And deep inside, Lyra felt a small, growing hope. She had found something rare, a human who saw her, accepted her, and taught her the first truths of true strength. She knew that these lessons would guide her for the rest of her life, shaping her decisions, her actions, and her understanding of what it truly meant to lead. She felt ready to face her world, not as a fragile princess bound by expectation, but as a being who had learned the quiet, enduring power of humanity. Princess Lyra had grown more confident in her quiet strength. Each visit to the maintenance room and the human friends she had met, Alex, Claire, and Noah, taught her something new. She learned to accept help without shame, to ask questions without fear, and to solve small problems with her own hands. The small acts of care and patience she witnessed every day had changed the way she thought about leadership, about strength, and about herself. One morning, as she entered the maintenance room, she noticed Alex working on a new device. He looked up and smiled. "Good morning, Princess Lyra. Ready for another lesson?" She smiled back, feeling at ease. "Yes, I want to learn more today." She rolled toward a workstation and observed him closely, noticing the careful way he handled the tools. He worked calmly, deliberately, never rushing, never showing frustration. She realized that his patience was a form of power, a quiet strength she admired more than any ceremonial sword or crown. After a while, Lyra spoke softly. "Alex, I want to tell you something." He looked at her with gentle curiosity. She hesitated, unsure if she should speak of it. Most of her life, secrets were dangerous, carefully hidden from everyone. But with Alex, she had learned that honesty was safe. "My disability, it is not from birth," she said quietly. "I was in an accident when I was young. My people, they hide it, they never speak of it. They expected me to stay out of sight, to appear perfect, to take part in politics because I could not compete in other ways." She looked down at her hands, feeling a mixture of shame and relief. Alex listened silently, nodding. He did not react with surprise, pity, or curiosity. He simply waited, letting her speak. You are still strong," he said softly. "You survived, you learned, you lead even now. Being hurt does not make you weak." His words filled her with a warmth she had never known. She realized that humans valued strength differently. It was not about being flawless or hiding weakness. It was about surviving, learning, and acting honestly. Over the next days, Lyra began to apply these lessons in small ways. She practiced moving through corridors without fear of judgment. She asked for help when needed and offered help where she could. She noticed that humans did not measure her by her disability, her title, or her past. They treated her as an equal, capable of learning and contributing. She felt herself changing, growing more confident in her abilities, more comfortable in her own skin. One afternoon, Alex suggested they work on a simulation of the station's energy system. It was a complex exercise meant to test problem-solving and teamwork. Lyra eagerly participated, applying the careful observation skills she had learned. She noticed patterns, suggested solutions, and even corrected a small error Alex had made. He laughed softly, a warm sound, and said, "You are getting very good at this." "I am impressed." Lyra felt a small surge of pride, not from praise, but from knowing she had contributed meaningfully. She realized that true strength came from participation, not from recognition. As the simulation ended, Lyra paused, thinking about the upcoming council meeting. She had always been expected to speak in perfect, rehearsed ways. Her people valued appearances, titles, and ceremonial words. But now, after spending time with humans who acted honestly and calmly, she wondered if she could approach the meeting differently. Could she speak truthfully even if it was uncomfortable? Could she lead without pretending to be flawless? That evening, Lyra sat in the maintenance room quietly, reflecting. The soft hum of the station, the glow of the lights, and the quiet presence of Alex gave her courage. She realized that her strength did not have to be visible or dramatic. It could be quiet, steady, and real. She could be herself, vulnerable and honest, and still lead. She thought of the council, of the diplomats, of the other leaders who expected perfection. She felt a strange excitement mixed with fear. For the first time, she wanted to speak from the heart, not from duty. The next day, she visited the room again. Alex noticed a change in her demeanor. She was calmer, more focused, more confident. "You seem different today," he said, adjusting a panel. She smiled. "I feel stronger in a new way." Alex nodded, understanding without asking for details. He had seen the growth in her quiet manner, the confidence in her hands and eyes. Lyra began to share more of herself with him. She spoke about the accident, about the fear she had carried, about the expectations that weighed her down. She did not speak of politics or strategy, just of her life and her feelings. Alex listened patiently, never judging, never interrupting. She realized that humans had a gift. They could listen, care, and guide without taking control. They could teach strength through kindness, patience, and quiet attention. As the day passed, Lyra felt ready to face the council. She had prepared herself in a way that her people could not teach. She had learned that strength was not in hiding weakness, but in being honest about it. She had learned that patience, observation, and calm action could achieve more than ceremony and rules. She had learned that humans could show courage without shouting, and that true leadership could be gentle and steady. When the council meeting began, Lyra rolled slowly into the chamber, her frame moving steadily. The diplomats noticed her approach, expecting a rehearsed speech, polished words, and careful appearances. Lyra paused, taking a deep breath. She remembered Alex's lessons, the quiet strength she had seen in the maintenance room, the patience, the honesty. She realized that she could speak differently, truthfully, and still lead. She began to speak, her voice clear, steady, and honest. She did not hide her past, her disability, or her fears. She spoke of the accident, of her people's expectations, and of the need for honest leadership. She shared what she had learned from humans. That strength could be quiet, that courage could be simple, that honesty could inspire trust. The room was silent. No one had expected a speech like this. Lyra noticed the eyes of other leaders soften, the tension ease, and the atmosphere shift. After she finished, there was a pause. Some diplomats looked surprised, others thoughtful. A few whispered to each other. Lyra felt a mix of relief and hope. She had spoken honestly, without hiding, without pretending, and the room had listened. She realized that her time with humans had changed her. She had gained a strength her own world could not teach. She had learned that being herself with honesty and courage could inspire others. Later in the maintenance room, Alex listened as Lyra recounted the meeting. She spoke with excitement and pride, not arrogance, but a new understanding of her own power. "You did well," he said simply. "You spoke the truth and people listened. That is the strongest thing you can do." Lyra smiled, feeling warmth and gratitude. She realized that humans had given her more than advice. They had shown her a new way to live, to lead, and to be herself. As the days passed, Lyra continued to visit the humans in the maintenance room. She shared more stories, learned more skills, and observed more of their quiet courage. She saw how they solved problems without recognition, how they helped each other without expectation, and how they acted with honesty, patience, and care. She realized that this quiet strength could change her world, and perhaps even the galaxy if leaders were willing to learn from it. One evening, Lyra looked at Alex and spoke softly. "Thank you for showing me a different way to be strong, for letting me be myself." Alex smiled. "You already had the strength. I just helped you see it." Lyra felt a surge of gratitude. She understood that strength was not about appearances, titles, or perfection. It was about courage, honesty, patience, and quiet action. She had learned that the human way could teach even the most powerful leaders something important. Lyra realized that her journey was only beginning. The council meetings, the diplomats, and the expectations of her people would still be challenging. But she now carried a quiet confidence, a strength that could not be taken away. She had learned that being herself, trusting others, and acting honestly could change how people listened, how they responded, and how they acted. She felt ready to face any challenge, knowing that true power came from patience, kindness, and quiet courage. And in that moment, Lyra understood the deepest lesson the humans had taught her. Strength was not always visible. It did not require titles, speeches, or displays. It lived in the choices to act honestly, help others, and trust in simple truths. She had been shown a way to lead, a way to live, and a way to be herself. For the first time, she knew that she could face the world as Lyra, not as a symbol, not as a fragile princess, but as a being with real courage, real understanding, and real strength. And it had all begun in a small maintenance room, with a human who simply asked her to stay. Princess Lyra awoke early that morning, the soft hum of the station surrounding her. Today was the day of the final council session, the meeting that could decide the future of several allied worlds. She felt a calm determination. She had spent weeks learning from humans, observing their quiet strength, their patience, and their honesty. She had practiced speaking with courage and truth, and now she was ready to carry that strength into the council chamber. She moved through the station corridors slowly but steadily, her frame whirring softly beneath her. The ramps, adjustments, and aids the humans had added made her journey easier. She noticed the little touches, a handrail in a tricky corner, a chair placed near a console. These small acts of care reminded her that strength could be gentle and practical, that true leadership could come from understanding the needs of others. She thought about Alex, Claire, and Noah, and the lessons they had taught her. She carried their quiet courage with her, like a shield no one could see. As she entered the chamber, the room fell silent. The diplomats and leaders expected a ceremonial speech, polished words, and careful appearances. They noticed her mobility frame and the slight tremor in her hands, but they had no idea that she carried a strength they could not yet see. Lyra paused, taking a deep breath. She remembered Alex's words: honesty, patience, quiet courage. She steadied herself, looking at the faces in the room. "Honored leaders," she began, her voice clear and steady, "I come to speak honestly today. I am not perfect. I have weaknesses and I have fears. I have been in an accident and my people have hidden my disability from history. But I have learned that weakness does not mean failure. It does not mean one cannot lead, speak, or act." She paused, watching the reaction. Some looked surprised, others confused, but she pressed on. Strength comes in many forms. It is not only in appearances, titles, or power. Strength can be quiet. Strength can be honest. Strength can be steady, patient, and caring. I have seen this in humans who helped me, taught me, and showed me the power of simple courage. The room remained silent. Whispers passed quietly among the diplomats. Lyra felt a small smile forming. She realized that honesty and quiet courage could command attention in a way formal speeches never could. She continued, sharing what she had learned from her time among humans, how they helped each other without expectation, how they solved problems calmly, how they valued persistence and honesty over appearances and titles. She spoke of patience, kindness, and practical action. She spoke of trust, shared effort, and the quiet heroism of everyday deeds. As she spoke, Lyra noticed a shift. The tension in the room eased. The leaders leaned forward, listening with curiosity and respect. Her words were simple, but their meaning was powerful. She was not demanding recognition, not making threats, not issuing commands. She was speaking the truth, revealing her experiences, and offering a vision of leadership that was strong because it was honest and human. After she finished, there was a pause. The silence was not uncomfortable, it was thoughtful. Lyra felt a warmth in her chest. She had spoken fully, honestly, and without pretense. She realized that the courage she had gained from humans had carried her through this moment. She had learned that leadership was not about being perfect, but about being true, about helping, and about acting with patience and care. A senior diplomat, a tall alien with shimmering skin, spoke first. "Princess Lyra, your words are unusual, but they carry truth. We see the wisdom in what you have said. Perhaps our councils have focused too much on appearances and titles. Perhaps we have forgotten that strength comes in quiet ways." Murmurs of agreement passed among the room. Other leaders nodded, realizing that the princess had revealed something important. Leadership could be humble, practical, and honest. Lyra felt a deep satisfaction. She had not only expressed herself, but had introduced a new perspective to the council. She knew that this could change the way decisions were made, the way leaders were judged, and the way alliances functioned. She felt the quiet power of her human lessons working in the galaxy, just as Alex had taught her. After the council meeting, Lyra returned to the maintenance room. She found Alex, Claire, and Noah finishing their tasks. She smiled, rolling toward them. "The meeting went well," she said softly. "People listened, they understood." Alex looked at her with pride. "I knew you could do it," he said. "You spoke from the heart. That is the strongest way to lead." Lyra felt gratitude swell inside her. She realized that humans had given her more than practical skills. They had given her courage, understanding, and confidence. Claire and Noah congratulated her quietly, sharing smiles and small nods. Lyra realized that their strength had been in the lessons they taught her: patience, honesty, care, and quiet courage. She understood that true leadership could be simple, practical, and profoundly human. She had learned that strength was not in perfection, not in appearances and not in power, but in understanding, acting with patience, and helping others. Over the following days, Lyra continued her work on the station, moving through the corridors, visiting maintenance areas, and learning from humans. She began to implement small changes in her own palace and among her people. Ramps, accessible workspaces, and practical adjustments were introduced quietly. She encouraged honest dialogue and shared effort, teaching her people the lessons she had learned from the humans. That strength could be quiet, patient, and caring. She also reflected on her own growth. She realized that her disability did not define her. Her experiences, honesty, and understanding gave her strength that was real and lasting. She had learned to accept help without shame, to act with courage without pretense, and to speak truthfully even when it was difficult. She had discovered that leadership was not about perfection, but about integrity, understanding, and quiet action. One evening, Lyra returned to the maintenance room alone. The hum of the station was calm, and the lights glowed softly. She rolled toward a console, thinking about everything she had learned. She realized that her journey had begun in a small room, with a human who simply asked her to stay. Alex had shown her that strength could be quiet, courage could be simple, and leadership could come from honesty, patience, and care. Lyra spoke softly to herself, almost as a promise. "I will carry these lessons wherever I go. I will lead honestly. I will act with care. I will remember that true strength is quiet, patient, and human." She felt a sense of peace and purpose she had never known. Her life had been transformed, not by titles or power, but by understanding, by human kindness, and by courage. She spent the night reflecting, planning small ways to introduce these lessons to her people, thinking about future meetings, and imagining a galaxy where leadership was measured not by appearances, but by integrity and care. She realized that the humans had given her a gift that could change not only her life, but the lives of many others. The quiet power of simple truth and honest action had shown her a new path. In the days that followed, the council meetings continued. Leaders began to listen more, act more thoughtfully, and consider practical solutions instead of appearances or ceremony. Lyra's influence grew, not because she demanded it, but because she acted honestly, with patience, and with understanding. She had learned from humans that strength could be subtle, courage could be quiet, and leadership could be real without spectacle. As she looked out over the station from her quarters, Lyra thought of Alex, Claire, and Noah. She realized that one human's simple question, "Do you want to stay?" had started a journey that changed her forever. She felt deep gratitude and understanding. Humanity, she thought, was not just about power or technology. It was about patience, care, honesty, and quiet courage. And through their example, she had learned to lead in a way her people could never have taught her. Princess Lyra smiled, her heart full. She knew that the future would bring challenges, but she felt ready. She had been seen, understood, and accepted by humans. She had learned the secret of true strength. It lived in quiet actions, honesty, patience, and care. And she would carry that strength wherever she went, teaching her people, inspiring other leaders, and changing the galaxy one small, meaningful action at a time. And in the stillness of the maintenance room, as the station hummed softly around her, Lyra whispered a quiet thanks. To Alex, to humanity, and to the simple courage that had shown her a new way to live, lead, and be herself. She had found the strength to be herself, and in doing so, she had found the power to inspire others. The galaxy would never be the same,